Hi folks, my name is Tim Gresh. I'm a professional bike fitter in Southeastern PA. This video will be on finding the right saddle. In this video, I will give you my tips that might help you in the search, and then I'll also give you some picks of saddles that might work for you. Now, with that said, let me tell you a little bit about how I find the right saddle for a customer coming in to see me. Now, in all of the years as I've been fitting, I have not found an easy way to get somebody on the right saddle other than putting in the work to have them try different saddles. That's really the only thing you can do. You gotta actually try the saddle, both in the studio here with me and then out on the road. So for that reason, what you see in front of you here is actually just a small piece of my demo collection. So I've made an investment in all of these demo saddles. So when someone comes in to see me for a fitting, I will sometimes use a switch it device. It's like a bike fitting tool to kind of go through different saddles, have the rider feel different shapes. And then if we land on something that seems reasonable, I have them try it out on the road for a period of time and then circle back, give me their feedback, and then kind of keep going in that direction until we land on something. I wish there was an easier way, but there isn't. That's kind of the best way to do it. Now, for those watching the video, you may not have a bike shop or fitter near you who is doing this. So, hence this video and the tips I'm about to give you. So, 3 different things. First one would be general bike setup. So first off, you could have a saddle currently that is fine, but you don't have the right seat height, seat setback, or some other thing like that. So it's worth, if you have a fitter in your area that you trust, making sure your overall bike position is reasonable. So in my view, that would be your seat's in a position where you can pass the balance test, you're not loading the handlebars excessively, and also you have a saddle height that's reasonable where you can go up a steep climb in a hard gear and not feel too much of a pull or discomfort high up in your hamstrings. That's kind of a sign that your seat's too high. So you want a nice reasonable seat height along with that center of balance. So that would be the first and most obvious thing, because I have seen situations where a rider has a saddle that's good for them, but their position is off. Now, next thing is where you are sitting. So a common misconception in cycling is that you are on the sit bones of the pelvis. And this is actually why in the bike industry, you will commonly see this device known as the assometer, I think some people call it. But basically you sit on a device that gets an imprint of your sit bones, and then you measure that width, and then that corresponds to the saddle that you buy. Now that makes sense if that's where you're sitting, but you are actually not sitting there. You are sitting on this part of your pelvis right here. So the assometer is measuring these 2 bones here as if you were sitting in a chair and your spine's coming straight out. But when you're on a bike, you're rotating forward like this, and you're actually putting pressure here. These are called the IPR bones. This is where you're sitting. So keep this in mind when you are finding the right saddle. If you're trying to find a seat where you are getting contact on the chair sitting bones, you're going in the wrong direction. You want to find something that's wide enough so that you're sitting on this part of the pelvis. Now the trouble here is that this part of the pelvis is hiding underneath soft tissue. You can't really measure that area, hence the reason why you got to just try the saddle and see if it works for you. And if you have a saddle that's the right shape, you should feel like you can rotate forward, sit in a nice little pocket where you're feeling pressure on the bones here. You kind of feel like you're sitting on the structure of your pelvis rather than on soft tissue. So if the seat was too narrow, you might feel yourself kind of like pushing in between these bones in that area, oftentimes causing genital numbness. So very important to understand the position where you're sitting in terms of the bone contact. Not the sit bones, you're on the IPR bones. Now the last thing is tumble home. So this is a really interesting metric of evaluating the shape of a saddle. This was introduced to me by Steve Hogg. I think it's brilliant because tumblehome is the rate of slope that the saddle has. So this has been a discussion that I've had with customers quite a bit lately because this saddle right here is a very popular shape right now. This is pretty much a derivative of the Specialized Power saddle, which has gotten very, very popular, and a lot of other brands seem to be making versions of it. I'm not opposed to this saddle or the shape. A lot of people love it. However, one thing about this saddle is that the rate of tumblehome, which is the amount of slope kind of tapering down on either side, is very gradual. So if you're riding a saddle like this and you're like, it's not that comfortable, maybe try a saddle with more tumblehome, like the Dynamic here. And I'm not saying you should try the Dynamic, but as a comparison, the SMP, Cell SMP Dynamic has a rapid rate of tumblehome. So it really just kind of swoops down like this. And I find in some cases, a rider can kind of move on that better than a saddle with a lesser degree of tumblehome, because it's just kind of slowly tapering down and in a way almost like cuts into their hamstrings and they kind of feel restricted. They feel much more kind of free in their movement on a saddle with more tumblehome. So tumblehome, something to consider and think about when you are searching for saddles. Now, let's talk about some of my picks. So this is just like very general. I kind of made a list of saddles here that are the common ones that I'm seeing on a day-to-day. So let's start off with the ladies. For road cycling, the Lite 209. For gravel, the Blaster, and then also the VT30C. That would be good for gravel, also mountain biking. So those are some of the women's saddles that I've been coming across lately that have been popular. Those aren't the only ones that I use, they're just ones that seem to be popular currently. Next would be for the men, the Dynamic and the Drakon. Those are good for road. And then the Blaster and the Nymber, again, for gravel. Also, the F30 is a great mountain bike saddle. And then moving on to triathlon, you can't go wrong with the ISMs typically. However, lately I've been finding a lot of folks like the Velo Senso, male and female for that one. And then the last one would be the Infinity saddle. So this one I kind of think of as, I shouldn't say a last-ditch resort, but if I've exhausted a lot of saddles and I'm not really gaining a lot of progress, I might pull out the Infinity because it's very unique. It has the giant cutout in the middle. It relieves all pressure on the sit bones. I've seen men and women love this seat. It really changed their cycling. It takes a little bit of time to get used to. I've had some folks try this saddle. They go down the road, they turn back and they're like, get this off my bike. And other people, this is all they want on their bike. This particular one is the E2 model, which is the most common one that I do. But this one I think is great if you're really struggling with issues, super sensitive to pressure on the sit bones, and you just need something that's going to help. So there you have it. My take on saddles, a very deep topic. I'm kind of only scratching the surface. Perhaps if I get a lot of views on this video and comments, I might make a spin-off and kind of dive deeper, but there you go. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. It helps the channel, and enjoy every ride.